everyone, and welcome. My name is Suzanne O'Brien, and today we have an interview for the Death Doula World Training Day that we're doing on April 20th, and we are so excited to interview our co-host, Adrian Allotey, who is one of my favorite people. I know there's so many people that I absolutely adore in this space, but I have to say that Adrian has done so much and is doing so much out there, and she's going to share a bit about what she has going on right now. But I want to introduce you again to Adrian Allotey, and she is the founder of End of Life Doula Services. You are not alone, and I love that name. So Adrian, welcome, and thank you so much for being a co-host of the World Training Day.
Oh, thank you so much, Suzanne, for having me. I'm so committed to the
Yes, I
work
know
we're
that.
all doing together, right?
Absolutely. And I think that people have to understand that that's where the magic happens. When you have synergy and you come together to share in a common goal, which again, end of life is something we're all touched by in our humanity. So the awareness of what we can learn from that space is incredible, but the synergy of working together with amazing people, you see this blossoming, this death positivity movement all over. So Adrian, can you just share a bit about yourself and again, how you got into this field?
Sure, absolutely. So let me just begin by saying that I never thought it was possible that I could live my best life. I was in such a dark place for so long. And I would ask myself, I was in a dark place, but I knew that there was light at the end of the tunnel. I just didn't know what it was or how I was going to get there or how long it was going to take. So I would ask myself every day, Adrian, are you willing to risk it all to gain yourself? And one day I said yes to that. And so what did that look like for me? I was in a job, high paying job, great benefits, but it just simply just didn't bring out the best of me. So one day I chose to walk away. Now, I don't recommend people walking away from their jobs unless of course they know that that is what they're supposed to do. That is their plan.
Yeah.
And for me, Suzanne, I knew that there was a calling on my life to serve those at the end of life. I knew it because while I was in this job, I tried to balance out the job that didn't make me feel so great by volunteering at a local hospice. And as I began to work with hospice patients, I realized, wait a minute, if their life is coming to an end, so is mine. And so it really is, we have a way of, life working itself out, even when we don't know that or have any way of understanding how it can be possible. The other thing that really brought this to my awareness was I had a 106-year-old grandmother, and I always felt so much guilt and shame and just worried that I just couldn't show up for her like I thought she deserved. At 106 years old, you deserve to be happy, you deserve to be engaged, you deserve good talks, good food, trips to the doctors, trips to church. And I just couldn't be there because of this job, because I was a mother and all these other demands that I had on my life.
Yeah.
But what really got me was at the end of life, she had great medical care, but no one was there to help us through what was happening to her as it relates to her body her life at this, in the world coming to an end. And so I was actually with her. I was the last family member with her. And if I had known that she was in the active dying phase, I know what that looks like now.
Yes.
If I had known that, I might have stayed like another hour to help support her. So even though the medical care was there was no one there supporting us, guiding us, educating us. And so that's what I do now. I educate, I guide, and I support those who have advanced stage illnesses, just help them prepare for their last breath, show them how to show up when most people don't know how, give them the coping skills to be able to, again, what happens at the end of life? People don't know what to say or do, so they stop showing up. Well, not my clients.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So beautiful. So much of what you said is so important. Like the first thing you start out with is that you had, a high paying job and great benefits. And yet, your soul was empty and your connection. And I think people have to understand that you have a choice and you have got to choose life because you only have this one go around in this body, whatever you believe in. And there's so many people I feel like that feel that same way, that are just walking through the motions and very unhappy. So we want them to really be empowered. And then you talked about absolutely that knowing the end of life. And you said she had great medical care, but you know what? Dying is not a medical experience. It's a human one, and it's a holistic one. And so again, if we knew what we're looking at and what that looks like, we can be so much more supportive to that loved one at that end. So now that's what you do, and I honor you for that. And that is so important.
And you know, Suzanne, while I'm thinking about it, there's this song, I wouldn't take nothing from my journey now. I wouldn't change a thing, because having gone through that dark period, I can now show people, not just talk about it and learn about it, but I experience it for myself. And so when you're preaching quality of life to the elderly,
Yeah.
you have to live that.
Yeah.
You know, the universe is not going to allow you to preach something that you don't know intimately yourself, or at least not do it well. And so I wouldn't take anything from my journey now.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's so inspiring too, because the best teachers are obviously when you've experienced something, but also how inspirational to others. That if you're in pain right now, if you feel stuck right now, if you are feeling like there is no light at the end of the tunnel, there is, and that's your story. And that's how you get there. You know, we only know light when we know the heaviness of it, right? So that's beautiful. So why did you want to be a co-host to the Death Doula World Training Day?
Well, you know this, that I've been out there educating people on how to prepare for the end of life. You know, that there are, you know, those important documents you got to have in order, but you also, people need to know that there's non-medical assistance available. And so I've been on this journey for a couple of years now. But let me tell you, when COVID happened, and I saw so many people who, you know, weren't prepared, didn't have the proper paperwork, didn't have the proper conversations. And, you know, as a society, I truly believe we did our best. But I saw non-COVID cases being swept away with COVID cases, and people losing their rights because they didn't have the conversations. There was no way to prepare for this. But what I said to myself, that I was not, if I'm asked to present or talk about it, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to talk boldly. Because if I can influence those that are in my circle of influence, I'm going to continue to talk about preparation for the end of life and that non-medical assistance, you know, during it. Because if people have had, you know, advocates, if they have had people who understood their wishes, it just didn't have to go exactly the same way it went. And so around January, I said, you know what, I'm going to get back out there. And let me tell you, don't make a wish, or don't, you know, don't say something, because I've literally have talked like about 4 or 5 times each month since January. So of course, the Doulagivers World Training Day, I've done it in the past, and I wasn't going to turn the opportunity down, because if it helps one person.
That's right.
Now I know we're going to help more than one, but if it helps one person, I'm going to put my time and energy into it.
Thank you so much for that. And I have to say, from my experience, again, as a hospice nurse and oncology nurse, that 2 things make end of life better by 80 to 90%. 2 things, no matter what the disease process is. One is having that advanced directive and paperwork done. And the second is knowing the basic skills of how to care for somebody at end of life, because it reduced the fear, it empowered. And so for me, that's our platform, right? That is, because we only have one opportunity with families to have this go well. We can't do a do-over for them. And so I love that you say if it helps one person, and we see that it's helping so many more. So it's so important that we get out, and it's all free. It's all free.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. So my second question, because you know the level 1, you know the end of life Doulagivers training. How do you feel that families knowing that and learning that can really change the way that we have end of life?
Well, let me just say this. You know, when babies come into the world, when life begins, people receive so many positive messages, so much support. But what's happening around the end of life? Are those same messages being shared? The importance, that the human part of it, you know, does it, you know, it takes 9, 10 months to bring a baby into the world. Well, what about the preparation for the end of the world? And so I know that that emotional, spiritual, and mental support has such an impact on the physical well-being. And so I tell my clients, like, there's no one way to die, And there are things that are going to happen that science, no medicine can explain.
Mhm.
And so I just would have to say that when people have the education on what's happening in the moment, what do we anticipate is going to happen next,
Mhm.
it just takes away from the stress of the unknown, the anxiety of the unknown. And so having that information just makes all of the difference. You know, and then seeing the person who is in the active dying phase being more comfortable. When somebody's face is scrunched up, that doesn't make the caregivers comfortable. So that adds to it. And so just having the knowledge of knowing this
Yeah.
is what's happening and
Yeah.
this is what we anticipate is going to happen next. You know, I even do dress rehearsals with my
Yep.
clients.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, and so that brings out humor too at the end of life.
It
And
sure does.
it just calms the atmosphere.
Yeah, and it also helps us to, because right now what I'm experiencing is that most people don't have any inkling of what end of life looks like. And so it's totally, it's the number one fear. So when you do a dress rehearsal, when you imagine what that, it takes our brain there already and allows us to be, and also to be proactive. Okay, what would I want to do in this instance? And do I want to do readings or meditation or whatever it is, or have music, all of that. So we have found that the level 1 training that we're giving for family caregivers empowers them in those 3 phases of end of life care, but also helps to reduce that fear of death that they might not have had an inside look at. And it also shares stories, really beautiful bedside stories, because for me, it doesn't get more real or more true. And it's sacred at the end of life. And so all of this wrapped up into this offering, is like a win-win-win, and we want to share that with as many people as possible.
Well, we only get to do it once, right? Unless there's some supernatural thing
That's
going on. We only get to experience
that we
that.
know of, right? Okay. Let's have it be a good one. Adrian, you've done so much for this movement and you are such a gift. Can you please share with people how they can get in touch with you and what you have coming up?
Yeah, so the name of my company, I don't think I mentioned it, is You Are Not Alone Elder Care. So You Are Not Alone Elder Care. I named it that because I found myself keep telling people you're not alone, whether
Yep.
it's the caregivers, the children, the person who had the advanced stage illness. And so my website is yanaec.com. So You Are Not Alone Elder Care, yanaec.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and my handles for those are YANAEC LLC. So YANAEC LLC. So I'm out there. You just Google it.
Listen, I'm putting all your links below on this interview, so don't worry about it.
Come up. Yeah, absolutely.
You can't miss you, but I know people are going to want to get right in touch. So I'll have all your links with this interview. And we just want to thank you from Doulagivers, because you have been, again, such an inspiration and a force of nature out there working so hard. I see what you're doing and I'm like, I get tired looking at everything you're doing, because you're doing so much. And I want to thank you for everything, again, that you're such a gift to this movement and to the world.
Well, thank you, Suzanne. Thank you for leading me down this road.
It's an absolute honor and pleasure. To be continued. So thank you so much, Adrian. And we'll see everyone at the Death Doula World Training Day on April 20th. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Adrian.
All right. Thank you.